Hi, everybody. So Anya's back. Yay. I'm so excited. And tell us what's going on with you. Something amazing has happened.
Yes, I have joined the journey into motherhood, into little mama bearhood. So I am in my little mama bubble with my beautiful little baby. So it's been a wild little roller coaster. We had a beautiful free birth at home. So that was very magical, spiritual, powerful experience. And yeah, it's just been a whole roller coaster of lovely, beautiful emotions, but also, experiencing the whole human range. And now I'm finally starting to feel a little bit more like myself. So I'm really, really excited. I was really excited for this call today. I've been like a little kid getting excited. So it's
Oh,
nice to
I'm
be
glad.
souls and not just being a little mama bear and just talking about other things and stimulating the soul, because we all need to like find that balance between being a mama bear and also having your own identity and conversations and things that excite you too. So yeah, I've been really looking forward to today.
Awesome. Awesome. So how long has it been? Like 2 or 3 weeks. I think actually we had planned to do a show, and then
The day I actually gave birth,
the
wasn't it?
day you gave birth, and I was like, oh, yep, not doing the show now.
Unless you want to do a live from the water pool in the. I literally spent the whole day in Astral, though I probably will have tapped in with you a few times that day. But yeah, since then he was 4 week old on Friday. So it's been, yeah, no, it's already that big. So he's been 4 weeks and a couple of days. So yeah, it's been a little while because I don't know when the video was before that. I think it was like a week or so. So about
Yeah,
5 weeks,
that's
which
been
is
a
gone.
while.
Yeah. Went really fast though, don't you think?
I think it went really fast because I thought it was like 2 or 3 weeks.
We're probably up on like the five or 6 weeks, which
Mm.
it's weird because like you say, the time's just gone so fast. But for me, I was excited to get back into just because it's not like it takes a lot of physical energy being sat on Zoom, and luckily I have his dad's watching him, so we can have a little bit of a catch up.
Yay. I'm so glad. So we're going to talk about, you actually had time to put out a short class for everybody. And the reason I think that it's really important right now is because the parallels are close to each other again right now. And it's so that we can experience this event that's coming. And the event is like a lifting of the curtain or a lifting of the veil. Now, is that lifting like physically? It's actually lifting it from the human mind,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
it's going to create a lot of different things happening.
But that has like more. I think the human mind veil has more effect on human life than maybe the physical one, or maybe the both. But in terms of like, if you believe something and you think you know it and that's your fact and your truth, sometimes nothing someone can say to you or show you can change that belief. So having them limiting beliefs, having them restrictions, having them like dead end walls removed, I think is going to be absolutely fantastic for people to actually expand and for those to be able to enlighten and awaken at a much deeper level. Instead of hitting them walls of thinking, well, that's not real, we've been told us whole life that doesn't exist, and this can't possibly be, because that stops them from questioning the what ifs and getting the details, and they listening to the higher selves and feeling confident, channeling with the ETs and these things. They get blocked by that because they don't believe it's real or that they're capable, or they live such in a small kind of box in the 3D level, which is just restricting their magic and their power and their energy. So I think truly, if that veil, when that veil is lifted, that's going to be kind of the key to enlightenment and awakening, speeding up in a massive way. It kind of like reminds me of like the whole consciousness just taking mushrooms and having this kind of expansion,
Yeah.
because with like that veil being removed and that box that you're in being removed, and allowing you to see beyond that and see out of that limitation,
Yeah. I think
which is
so
a.
too. And right now, everybody's going to experience it. Like, if you think of the parallels as like, they're kind of like a spiral, like everything is in spirals, but long spirals, not like a spiral
Yeah.
like this, but like a spiral that goes like this. But basically those parallels are close. And what's happening is we're getting affected by them right now.
Yeah.
And I know the other night somebody was had like jealous, irritated thoughts going on, and they were directed at me, and I had horrible heartburn.
Oh, man.
And I hardly ever have heartburn. So I was like, what is going on? And for a long time I thought, oh, you shouldn't have eaten this, or you shouldn't have eaten that. And at midnight, I was like, maybe this is coming from outside.
Yeah.
So then I clued into what it was, and I just stuck a mirror right there so that they could deal with their own stuff.
Yep.
And within 5 minutes, that horrible heartburn, like I couldn't lay down at all, was gone.
Wow.
So the power of thought is big.
No, it really is. It really is. And like you say, if you'd not have sat there and questioned, okay, is this coming from external? You just sat there all night in agony for continuously, you know, because it's actually questioned the thought of, I've done it many times where I've been having an overwhelming moment, overwhelming time, and then I've sat there and thought, oh shit, is this mine? And then usually I chat channel in, or I'll tap in with you and ask you, honey, what's going on? And then once we ask, like, once we tap in at that energy, that's when the relief comes. That's when the answers come, the clarity, you know, and that's when we start thinking about, oh yeah, we can use the protection, or you know, even if it's just something small, like, you know, I recently got a car, and then me and Brad were saying, like, then you get stuck like, oh well, where we're gonna go? And it's like you're just limiting yourself completely in that restriction. Just channeling and just expand beyond the restriction of the box and the limitations and the routines, and the norm really is breaking out of the norm and just tapping in and doing things and asking questions that are a little bit outside of the usual box, I think is really, really. And if the veil is going to be dropping for people, then I mean, we've already seen people asking so many more questions. And I mean, I personally, in my area and the people I've been associated with, I have seen a massive increase in the people that are asking questions that were not asking questions before, that, you know, I've been able to be in conversations and actually understand and not judge. And I feel like able to have these conversations around these people now, instead of feeling like I have to be quiet and I have to limit what I'm saying, you know. And it kind of, it's like this new, maybe they don't understand it all, maybe they don't get it all, but the point is they're not coming from judgment and like what they're talking about. It's more curiosity and openness. And I've really noticed that in the past kind of 6 months, how much more people are being openly more asking questions and openly more interested in all different aspects of the awakening.
Yeah, and this is the elevation of consciousness right now. And also it depends on what you're willing to accept. That's your creation, your hologram. So like your game, your personal part of it. So I just want to bring this up to people. It's very it's hard to grasp. Like it's fine to grasp it as a scientific thing, but it's hard to grasp it as a reality. So I just want to bring it up and you guys think about it. So we have a collective hologram and we have our personal hologram. So the things that we look at every day and the people that we encounter every day. But this is truly the dream. And the reality is that we're a whole bunch of souls working on raising consciousness right now. So even like if you look into string theory or something like that, you will see that nothing is any more than energy.
Yeah, everything is energy. And that's not fair, because like you say, that can be really hard to digest, especially if people have not thought about that concept before. So it's not to say that it's not important and it's not real in terms of what you feel, how you experience it, the people you interact with, you know. Of course, a part of it is I mean, what even is real? What does that word even mean? It's a tangible experience that we feel. You know, when we have a nightmare and a dream and you wake up sweating and palpitating and in pure fear, that's because your brain and your human vessel experienced that like that dream as real. You know, that your body did not know the difference. Your body felt the fear. It had the physical response to that experience as a real experience. So this reality that we're living in, it's as real as anything else. It's there, it exists, but the point is it's not the only thing in the universe that exists. And you know, if we fuck up a little bit, or if something goes, I didn't mean to swear then, I do apologize, but you know, if things go wrong in terms of like, if we make a decision that we feel, oh, we can never go back, you know, I get asked this question a lot: am I making the right decisions, am I doing the right thing? And it's like, well, even if you don't, it's all going to be a learning experience from the bloody cat. It's all going to be a learning experience from our souls to report back to the oversoul. But everything is still put your love into it, still put your joy into it. Just maybe as a reflection of Honey just said, don't take things too seriously, don't get too invested and stuck down with the concept of finances, you know, having to get that mortgage by the time you're 25, or that's a lot of the things I see with people around me. And I think, wow, it's so strange to have such pressure and anxiety over something that, without being offensive, is completely meaningless in terms of your soul experience. And there's so much stress and anxiety and fear and pressure put on to tick that box, which means absolutely nothing to your soul growth, you know. And it's great if you really want to do it as a human, but the point is, you know, we need to stop limiting ourselves, I think, in many aspects. And in terms of the parallels, that is overlapping a lot. And I think sometimes we are either waking up from dreams where I wake up very disoriented sometimes, where it has got to the point where I didn't actually know who I was, what I was living, lifetime this was, what earth I was on. I genuinely had to think about, like, I remember and then I heard Brad's voice and I thought, oh yeah, that's a person that I know. I'm coming back. And it really was like, I had no idea. For a split second, I had no idea like what was going on. And it took a couple of seconds to come back into my version of reality and like my name and the world. And like I was like, oh yeah, Trish and life. And it was really kind of, it took me back a minute, but it just goes to show that we are having all these different experiences, and this is just one of them, and it's a beautiful thing. But there is overlaps right now, and don't be kind of harsh on yourself if you are feeling exhausted or you're doing a lot more work in the astral realm, you know. A question I wanted to ask Honey about the parallels is, if one version of our oversoul living an experience in a parallel lifetime is further behind, so like I always have that place I go to that's kind of like a clone version of Huddersfield, but it's not, it's like a different place, but I always end up in that place. So is that because that version of my fractal is further behind in consciousness, so this version of me goes to assist in that?
Not always. I feel like, so time is kind of like a spiral as well. And when I was a kid, I would always say it was a circle.
Yeah, I
So
get
when
that. Yeah,
people were talking about time, I'm like, no, it's a circle. You know, I'd be all ticked off about it. But that was how I was when I was little. I was irritated by things
yeah.
that people didn't understand.
Yeah, I bet.
And that's how the kids are now.
Yeah.
So, and they're even further ahead than we were because they don't have a veil.
Yeah.
So they're going to be particularly funny and be like, oh, don't you get it? You know, like,
Can I already see my boy, he's only a month old, he rolls his eyes at me and looks at me like, and he's only a tiny
right?
baby.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was the question again?
The question was, obviously that was quite a specific question in terms of, are we kind of helping the other versions of us in the parallel lifetime, because they're merging so much? It's like, and that's why I think when I woke up that day, it was like I had no idea where life was and who I was. It's because I'm obviously blending into these other parallel lifetimes or experiences, or you know, different like beings, not even human experiences sometimes. I've noticed that. So it's like, is that to help our oversoul evolution? Are we doing that to speed up our oversoul's conscious evolution so that we're kind of tapping in and out to, you know, different versions?
Yeah, because if you resolve something in one of those lifetimes, so if you think about this picture again, this crazy picture. So the overfull, all those dots are like another higher self.
Yep.
And there's supposed to be, I want to say the normal number is like 88.
Oh, nice.
So if you have 88 lifetimes going on, and then you have all the different versions of those lifetimes.
Okay.
On top of that. So then it becomes infinite. But the 88, the ones that show up for you, like you're tapping into them, usually they have something that you can help resolve.
Right. Yeah. And that makes sense because I feel like it's a similar lifetime to this one, just not as evolved, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like a need to kind of just help speed that up a little bit. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And in terms of how I see it and how I got asked to explain past lifetimes, reincarnation, and then I put parallel lifetimes in with that as well to a younger person the other day, to someone's little boy. And the way I kind of explained it was, well, it's almost because they play video games. So it's like, well, it's like a video game, you know, like when you're picking a character on a video game, the same player is holding the remote, yet they can choose to have different characters on the game, different experiences, but it's always the same player behind the character. And that's the same kind of representation I could see for a child or a younger person to understand, or even someone that's new to this concept, you know, it's like, we are the same player underneath these experiences, yet we put on different characters to have these different soul growths and soul evolutions and lessons. And that's kind of what I feel like Honey, you was tapping into earlier in terms of saying, don't take the character too seriously. Remember really that we are part of this player and we are part of something a lot bigger than just the character that we are playing in this experience. And it's not kind of the be all and end all, this experience we're having in this character. There is so much more to our soul.
Yeah, there's so much more. And then also to not get too attached to the physical.
Yeah,
like we get really attached to, okay, I need this color house, I need to get married by this point of time, I need to have a relationship that looks like this, I need to do this, I need to do that. And usually all of that's programming. And then we get attached to it. And what it does is it puts us like in a spider web of being stuck, you know, and we're then attached to those things. So be more flowy with your wishes, I would say.
Yeah,
and it'll make
definitely.
it
Like,
easier.
I fully agree, Honey. I think when anyone ever asks me about any form of manifestation, what you were saying right there just really represents to me the kind of magic or the secret, I call it, to manifestation or bringing in what you want into your reality is, you know, in terms of many different things like clearing blockages and blah blah blah, but in terms of actually calling it in, is working on the vibrational frequency, you know, in how it makes you feel, because the physicality of it, I think, is harder to create, or it's not actually bringing in what we need. Sometimes it's just bringing in the physical represent, like the image of it, you know, it doesn't bring in the value. So if you're looking for a new partner, if you're looking for a new job, if you're looking for a new home, really tap into how you feel when sat there with that person in that home, in that job. Like, how does it make you feel? What kind of energy does it create in your body? When have you felt that experience before in the past? How can you create that sensation within your body whilst thinking of that image, so that you can associate that feeling with that experience and that image, so that you can tell the universe what it is you're actually trying to feel and call in and vibrate. Because that to me is, I find that the way that I call in things, it works more so if I'm focusing on the actual frequency and the way it makes me feel. And I do think that even if you're already in a partnership and you're wanting it to be a different version, it's about creating that feeling now in that moment, feeling that, thinking that, and then bringing that into it, instead of focusing on what you don't want, which a lot of people know, but also not just focusing on, oh, I want this and the image of it and what it looks like on the surface. Yeah, but why? Why do you want? I use Trish an example because she always says, I want a Viking. And I say, yeah, but Trish, why do you want a Viking? You know, and we always laugh about it because it's the representation of the safety and the masculine energy and the kind of protection that it brings. And also you're allowed to have the physical attraction. That's absolutely fine. But it's about identifying why you want them physical things on a vibrational level and calling in that.
Yeah.
I think important.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. And we're basically the emotion. So emotion and gratitude are like
Yeah.
lubricants to
Mhm.
bringing in a manifestation.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And gratitude for having it now, having the feeling of it, and being grateful that it's coming and just sending that out. And then you basically, like, it's like saying, okay, I'm just going to go to dinner with this person and they just picked me up. And I'm going to say, just in case I forget, I want to say thank you for this dinner.
Yeah.
Before you even get there. So if you can do that for the things that you want to manifest in your life, they're going to come in quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%. And like you say, when I'm getting all about like my house, or I get all agitated, I'm like, oh, I want to move, I want this move. I sit there and I go, but you know what? It's warm. It's got beautiful energy and it's got lovely animals. I'm fed, I'm safe, and there's a sense of safety and protection here. And all them things that lifts off all the things I'm so grateful for, because that then creates a beautiful association with this home, which then creates a beautiful association with your home and then bigger things. So it is truly about being aware of your frequency of when you're trying to call things in. What is that kind of lack coming from, and where is that coming from in you? Focus on filling that energetic void within self as well, and try to just patch it up on the physical world, fill the energetic void within self.
Yeah. And not everybody could be a player on earth.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if you're here, then be grateful for that too, even though I think a lot of us have just been stuck in, oh, I just want to go home. This is so rude and hard and annoying. But it is also like a master's degree being on earth. Like
And
learning
that
this stuff is really intense.
no, and it is, and I have how hard it is. But like you say, we truly do have to be really grateful, because it's kind of like we're all in a bit of victim mode. Oh, and that I've always said I've never felt a calling to go back anywhere. It's really strange. I'm like, nah, I'm right where I'm meant to be. I love this planet. I love the earth. I love everything. I don't necessarily like the energy here, but I love the planet. I love the earth, the trees, and nature, just the rivers, everything about it makes my soul full. And I don't feel a desire to go back anywhere right now. However, that's not to say this experience is easy, because it is not really easy to be a human, but there is definitely a sense of joy for just experiencing being on this earth. And sometimes I go outside and it's like when I'm completely sober, not on any other plant medicines, and I just have this awe, like it just takes my breath away sometimes at how magical it really truly is here. And I don't think that as a human being we do stop enough and just look. I mean, probably the audience that's listening, these guys probably do, but when I look at my own family, when they're rushing about in their little lives trying to figure out how they're going to pay that bill and get that mortgage, and I'm like, guys, just look at the trees, and in that moment, that sometimes that's what gives us the answers. The trees hold wisdom from hundreds of years. Sometimes if we zoom out, I call it, from, like you say, stop taking it so seriously in the zoomed in character, zoom out a little bit, use the beautiful wisdom around us from nature, from us ancestors, from us higher self, and actually ask outside questions, ask outside sources rather than just our own mind. Wow, we can create such a different outcome than just completely repeating the same rat race cycle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Mm.
So let's talk about, we were going to talk about Israel a little bit. Since Rumble.
Yeah. It's a difficult one, isn't it? It's like, well, it's not a difficult one. Well, it's one of them. It's a touchy subject, I think. And I always find it controversial to talk about stuff that's like in the mainstream now, because there is people that have like an emotional investment in this. And especially like when it is something that people are affected by on a physical level, we have to have consideration, empathy, love, and kind of send that healing energy out there on the physical human level. 100%. It's the same as when COVID, it's not the same, but what I'm saying is it was the same concept when COVID happened. And there were people that were passing, that were being held in nursing homes, abused, and being treated completely malicious, horrible ways. There were people suffering, even though the whole thing was a whole bullshit and got a higher plan. There was still people that suffered, people that died, and people that got hurt of the consequence of that. So
Oh yeah.
we can have empathy in terms of, even though this stuff that's going on is for a higher purpose. It's to show, I think, the divide that's going on. It's to show truth about religion. It's to create awareness and a conscious awakening. But it doesn't mean that there isn't people suffering to a mass extent. And, you know, I definitely send a lot of healing for anyone that is affected at this time by the human experiences of it. But I do always think that when there's anything big like this going on, there is deeper energetic purposes to what's going on, why they're doing it, why this time, why in the media is it being portrayed in these ways. You know, we
Mhm.
have to be asking these questions, because we can't just listen to this narrative and go, oh yeah, okay, like, because then we wouldn't have been here where we are today, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I see it that way too. And I've been looking at it from a zoomed out point of view. But I see
Mm.
it as just like with the Ukraine, a
Yeah.
lot of the things that we see on the news for this are fake. So has no one, I'm sure that there have been a few injuries over there. And some of them have probably been part of the cleanup process because Israel has been basically occupied by the Zionists
Yeah.
for, I don't remember how long, but I want to say like 75 years or something. And that is about to expire. Their
Mhm.
lease somehow is about ready to expire. And not only that, a lot of people that have been in politics have dual citizenship with Israel. So why are they dual citizens with Israel? That's about to be exposed.
Yeah.
Israel is going to be like the crack in the dam that breaks the dam.
Yeah.
So
100%.
it's going to be massive and it will affect every single system
Yeah.
that we have. Yeah.
Mhm. I was getting a lot of, I was tapping into it and talking about it and asking questions. The big concept that I was getting through was religion. And, you know, everyone that ever has heard me speak about religion before, I definitely don't have anything against it. I just personally, my personal beliefs are that it is limiting your power and it is giving that power away to an external source. And there is a lot of do's and don'ts there, when I think personally it's on your higher self to choose what your experiences are, blah, blah, blah. So I do think that this specific time, what I'm getting is that there is going to be a lot of truth exposed by the people that are representing these religions and the people that are preaching peace and love, but then are acting in ways or trying to create actions that are from such lower vibrational energies that create such damage and detriment to other people. It's like, I think that it's really going to be exposed level of that, because, you know, they have taken the concepts of truth and of awakening and put it into things like you say, the separation and the divide in religion, which the whole point is meant to unite. The whole point in spirituality and getting into your heart center is to be a united sense of consciousness, of being in the heart, someone that is connected to self, connected to love, connected to source. And to then be in divide and hatred and just simply out of ego of, you know, the different things of who's right and whose story and which version and which perspective, like, it's a lot of it is just translation, it's just human translation, and there doesn't need to be such detriment and wars and collapses and hatred that is being spread amongst it. And I think this is going to be part of that specific system falling, the truth being shown of who these people are that are representing these religions. And a lot of them, I think, are intertwined. A lot of them, I think, are kind of on the same team, which is against the people. It's against the rising of a consciousness, against the rising of humanity and the awakening of the souls. So when we're looking at it as, you know, Jews and Muslims and Jewish people and Muslims and Christians and all different types of things like that, I personally think a lot of the leaders that are representing these fronts are the kind of, they're the enemy and they're the ones that are trying to get people to be in hatred with each other, while I think they find it quite funny and kind of sat back laughing in there. They're all on the same kind of panel, and
Mhm.
it's us that are being the little monkey chips that are just being like used and put anywhere for people to kind of be used as their weapons. They're using the people as their weapons. So I do believe now that it's time for people to see behind the curtains of who's running these shows and allow them to step into their own truth of their own power and their own fractal sense of God, because God is oneness. God is the connection to source. God is the united sense of all consciousness, all being, and we came from that. We are a fractal of that. So
Yeah.
we are all, we're all parts of that, and no one is right or wrong. That's the point. No one's fucking right or wrong. It's just human translation words that have been used against each other and so literal that has caused all this hatred and warfare. And I mean, even speaking about it, I get hesitant. I'm like, oh shit, I really don't want to offend anyone, and that's never my intention. But it's this truth has to be spoken, because if we didn't speak the truth in COVID, then none of us would be here now. We have to go against the narratives in terms of what we believe our truth is, and that is personally my truth. I never felt a resonance to the religion, and I studied quite a lot of them in ethics and philosophy. I went to church a few times with my own family, and to me, I never felt that resonance of connection there. It wasn't until I understood the souls and source and the connection to consciousness, which that for me made complete sense. And I do think we have to listen to your truth, but really question the things that we are being told, because religion is based on truth and then twisted and manipulated for control, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
and I think we forget that we have had people that we can't even see. Like, we didn't necessarily even know their name. So above the Rothschilds and Rockefellers,
way above.
that have been treating humanity as basically a group of cows that they can maneuver around and create chaos and farm the energy from. So this for them has been a game, and their most important thing was to not be known that they were controlling everything. Well, guess what? They've been outed, and the good guys have taken over, but they're using some of those tactics to expose. Like, there was a false flag here in the US recently, and several people supposedly passed. I don't get that really happened in the same way. I'm not going to say that nobody got hurt, but I feel like it was similar to the Vegas thing, where a lot of those people weren't actually, they were already passed away. So some of those bodies were actually frozen. So anyway, as far as these false flags, it exposes, they're talking about how it was done. And I watched something, a little video, like a little collage, and it was all the false flag perpetrators saying, oh, well, I hear voices and I do this. And, basically they were MK Ultra victims out doing this stuff. And that has to be exposed. So all the veils are lifting right now.
Yeah, really, really important, honey, that you said that, because first of all, the one thing that I got at the earlier on what you were saying is, well, we need to consent. And this is a thing that people don't realize. We have all been consenting to this coercion and control and kind of participating in the matrix when we was living in what's the word, ignorance, because a lot of us were choosing the media, consuming big pharma products, not seeing the symbolism and the true vibrational energy behind music and behind adverts and all these things we was just subliminally absorbing and consciously choosing to participate in because we was giving our consent. When we watch a horror film, we consent to watching that film, we consent to the energy that comes with that film. That's how entity attachments come from media and films like that. So for years and years, we have been giving our consent away to these beings to control us. They cannot do it without our subliminal consent. And even though it's been not necessarily consciously doing the consent, we have been giving it. So now we have this consciousness awakening, our higher selves are talking to us. Obviously, they're channeling in that we get this intuition, this feeling, we question it, we look at the kind of propaganda that's been spiraled around, and we're able to not give that consent. We're removing that level of consent. And the ways that they do that is by keeping hidden. If we don't know, if we have no idea who they are, what they are, like where their frequency is at, then we kind of, it's like you can't identify something, you can't identify it, you can't remove it. So it's just kind of like this unknown entity being. But it is simply about the consent that we are giving and what energy we are tapping into. And that's not to say that you have to be aware of everything and constantly on guard. It's quite the opposite. It's knowing that you are protected in your heart space and in your frequency. If you are in love, gratitude, if you start to feel the fear, if you start to feel anxiety, just list 3 things you're grateful for in that moment. That'll flick your frequency straight back up into your heart. Just stand outside, look at the birds, look at the trees, sit in your human vessel and breathe. Like, all we have to do, I think, is regulate our frequency, is being in touch with our frequency and our mind, body, soul, and spirit, and to kind of ensure that our frequency maintains as much as possible in the heart frequency, because that's where there's least interactions with lower vibrations, least attacks, least like bad vibrational energy around us if we're in the heart. So I think that's kind of the key thing that we can work on, is keeping in the heart frequency. I kind of don't know where I went with that point, but you get my drift. where I was going a little bit.
Well, I think we've gotten used to, because of the frequencies, gotten used to being numb.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so many people have just been numb on the outside and then basically controlled on the inside.
Yep.
But that's not happening anymore. People are becoming awake to it, and they're also learning how to control their own energy, which is what you're teaching in that class. It's what I'm teaching all the time, is control your own energy. You can heal yourself if you work on these things, you know.
Yep.
And that's what we're here for. That's our role. That's what we chose to play in this game.
It is, it's our purpose. I remember the other thing, it was the MK Ultra thing, which is just a small thing I wanted to say, is that we have judgment and anger, which is right fair as a human. However, when you actually look at the truth to things, when we zoom out again and we look at the people that have been inflicting this, and even those that chose to give out vaccines and things like that, when we give them all this anger and hatred, a lot of people didn't know the extent of what they were doing. We knew because we were questioning it at that time, but these people didn't know there was giving people this poison, or they didn't know there was enforcing these things. Some of them did, and those that did, that's a whole different story. But a lot of those that didn't make that conscious choice, and even those that are higher up, that are puppets, they're not necessarily awake conscious souls that are in these beings and bodies that are then choosing to do these negative nasty things. A lot of them are controlled, manipulated, brainwashed, or yes, some of them are choosing to be in the darker agenda. That is a thing. But I do think that the majority of people that people do look at as these kind of really negative, low vibrational people, a lot of them have just been brainwashed to a whole different extent. I that really severely did believe these things to the highest extent, like that was their truth. They was fully indoctrinated into that.
And also younger souls, or maybe more of a fractalized soul. So like when the incubator babies came in the early 1900s, they started exposing it, but they were repopulating before that, and that's where all the orphan trains came from and all that stuff. But what came in for me is that the Greys had learned how to basically fracture a soul.
Yep.
So when they fractured the soul, then you would get in one of these little babies 1/100th of a soul. Now in natural world, you probably couldn't have more than 3, like a triplet soul that would come down and split into 3. That's what I got was max, but normally it would be twin souls or just 1. So the whole thing, like, how can we expect someone who's got 1/100th of a soul to be aware of that? Like, they have enough to run their body and to run their mind, but they don't have enough to get into their heart. They don't have enough. And I think a lot of those people are the people that are leaving, because those souls need to come back together.
Yeah, and it's like a wholeness for them, because imagine, I suppose they're not necessarily physically suffering in any way, but they are at like a capped potential. They cannot physically, and that made a lot of sense to me later on in life, Because I remember being 15, 16 thinking, why are people not doing more things about this injustice in the world? Why are people not questioning? Why are people not rebelling? Like, I did not understand as a 16-year-old why people were not doing more about this, or speaking, or questioning, or just not conforming as much.
Yeah.
But when I understood that concept, that there is such smaller fractals of souls in some humans, and that they're not physically able, they will never ever be physically able in this lifetime, in this conscious like fractal being, to reach that level, because it'd be like brain melt, it'd be burnout mode, they're not, it'd be overdrive for them. And I think it's prevalent when you understand that, to know that everyone is on their own journey, which is why it's so important for you not to look at them and judge them and think, oh well, why are you not, because I used to do it, why are you not protesting, why are you not doing that, and then I realized, well, everyone's on their own mission, doing their own role, expressing their own truth and their own purpose, and people are functioning at sometimes their highest optimum level, and we cannot expect people to get any higher than that if that is their maximum capacity.
No. And honestly, like if they try, they're gonna combust.
Yeah, that's what
Like
I
it's
got.
a way to melt the brain,
Yeah,
basically.
it just would not work. It's like when Dolores Cannon said, when she started doing hypnotherapy in the 1970s, if she'd have been given all the information about the convoluted universe, the past lives, all that on that day, her brain would have melted. There is no way she could have contained that information. It took years of expanding the sponge and expanding that knowledge and popping little bits in. And I bet even a few times she said that it was too much and it made her question everything, because it does. I have that moments when I'm like, okay, is anything real? What is life? What is life right now? And we all have them moments on them big expansions where I've questioned my sanity many times. And I think it's only recently, when meeting people like you and going on bigger events and getting that external validation from multiple other people, that I gained that real inner sense of, yeah, no, you was right to do what you did, because I still had them questions and doubts throughout, in terms of, there wasn't anyone doing what we were doing when we were doing it, and that were only 5-10 years ago. I remember
Yeah.
search for 5D and 5D consciousness in maybe 2017, 18, and there was nothing, did not exist. It did not exist on YouTube, it did not exist on Apple Podcasts, it did not exist anywhere. I remember searching so much for 5D consciousness and awakening, and there was just nothing on it. And I think that's so interesting, because now if you search it, it's everywhere. So if you look at the awakening expansion and how fast that's happened, I think I'd say we've done pretty well in absorbing the information as fast as we have as a collective.
Yeah. And we're attracting it because we want the information, because we know we're changing. And we're like, how come we're changing? So I talked about Noah's Ark the other day in a video, and somebody asked about the ET arcs, with all the DNA on them and stuff. And I get that they're all over the place, under the dirt, under the water. And they're kind of like a fail-safe library, to recreate.
Yep.
However, I then was like, oh, well, what about that boat? I was thinking about that boat. And there's that boat on Mount Ararat, and I didn't remember the name of it or anything. But I was like, well, what about that? And then it came in, oh, well, that's a story. They changed the story to mold it to what they wanted to, and it turned into Noah's Ark. And then 2 days later, a video comes up and explains the story.
Okay.
So, and I posted that on Telegram. So it's like we're just pulling in the information.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yep. A lot of it's just, like you say, in the etheric realm.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm sure we talked about this before, like when there was the light bulb was being invented, like 3 other people were inventing it at the same time as Edison, I think he's called, because the idea was in the etheric realm, and it's kind of like a race to who gets it. And it's not a case of someone being better than anyone else. It's genuinely just about different frequencies, different alignments, and your frequency matching that frequency and being able to relay and kind of pass on that information. But it is something that I think, the ego does get wrapped up sometimes, especially I'd seen a lot of people in the spiritual community of kind of like claiming certain ideas as their own, or like certain concepts, or like because they got that channeling through, like we don't own anything. We don't own information, you know. And that's why I think when any new idea comes through to me, or any new bits of information, or anything I think is what I call game changer, you know, something big, something that's like, wow, this changes my whole way of thinking, I love to share them with people, because I'm like, that's the whole point. If I was getting that information before, I'd have been like, wow, thanks so much. You know, the whole point is to share information and to help. Like, if this can help consciousness awakening, why would we not share it faster, in terms of not doing it for the sake of a financial gain? Because the universe will give you the financial gain in another way for sharing the awakening of consciousness. So it really is just about sharing as much truth and awakening as we can, in terms of when it feels right to our frequencies.
Yeah. And I think when people are claiming I'm the only one that knows, like, that's lack mentality. So there's some kind of lack thing going on that they haven't healed yet. There's a wound. But I think honestly, we all get together in the astral plane and we decide, oh, okay. So just like if you were players in a video game, which honestly, I think those video games are here to help with ascension. Some of them were very nasty, but some of them were very helpful, because younger people, their minds could understand the concepts that are now coming through. But if you think about it, you're the video game player and you're saying, you're all in the chat room together, and I don't play video games, so I don't know how it works, but you're all in the chat room and you're like, that's the same as the astral plane, and you're saying, okay, this is the next strategy to help humanity elevate and go through ascension.
And it's like, in that chat room, you decide, right, this is the mission for right now. This is you do that one, you do that, you go that way. It's like we all have little parts of it that were there to play integral. So we can't have the ego in terms of claiming this and claiming that, you know. And I think it is dying off a little bit, the ego, a little bit.
I think so too. And also, people, like, if you're afraid to share it, if you don't do what your mission is, it moves to the next person. So it does move.
Yeah.
If you're unwilling.
It's coming to me lately about that, the moving, if we're not doing it, is my cats are just fighting behind the laptop. If anyone can hear that, that's what that is. You know, is in terms of, if we're like, sometimes I get that anxiety, that fear of being seen, that fear of being judged, that fear of being seen on social media. And you know, the thing is, we have come here to do a mission. We have come here to spread as light. And the one thing we don't want to do is get to later on down the line and think, fuck, I wish I'd have spread my truth a bit more. I wish I'd have danced at that, around that bonfire, you know. And I've not done it many times. I did it in Morocco, you know. Want to be your full self, but you just don't, because you feel judged, or you feel silly, or you feel like, I don't know, there's so many different things that come up, different inner child traumas, different triggers. And it's like, we really need to be aware of these and not allow them to constantly, for the rest of his life, affect us, you know. Like, next time that comes up, don't do that again. Make sure you do the thing you wanted to do. Make sure you do spread your truth. Make sure you do dance in that rain. Make sure you do just take a minute to live and actually enjoy it, and express every part of it. Because, you know, be seen on YouTube. Start your show. Like, why is your message any less valuable than us talking right now? Because that's what I used to think. Why I couldn't do that? You know, I'd watch it knowing that I was talking about, had the same idea or the same theory come through with me 2 weeks before, and I'd see it as they were talking about it come through after. I'd be like, well, I could have fucking done that, but didn't do it. You know, there was that limitation and restriction until later on. And we all have a message to be spoken, and whatever way your delivery is, I think it is really time for us now to not being afraid to be seen, not being afraid to be our truth. Because if we don't do it now, then when? If we're not going to step in now, then when are we going to do it, you know?
Because really all we have is now. Like, now is the most important thing, and all the timelines converge on to now.
Yeah, no, it truly is, honey. You're so right. And sometimes we get reminders of that, because even though we are spiritual beings living a human experience, and even though this is, you know, not necessarily our only experience, and there's so much more to it, you know. I had a friend, it was not a friend, someone I knew from school recently committed suicide the other day, and he had 2 daughters. And it really kind of hit my human in terms of thinking, wow, this life is not guaranteed for tomorrow and the next month. You know, I know we'll go on to a different experience in the soul and we all have the higher self choice and blah blah blah, but it reminded me the importance of living in the now and not putting things off to later and tomorrow, and like just pushing things away that mean something because of human things that necessarily don't, you know, bills and jobs and cleanings and things that stress of energies, when we could be creating, when we could be writing that poem, when we could be recording that video. No, it might not be perfect, no, it might not be the best as everybody else's, but it's your creation and it's time for us to start sharing them things.
Yeah, it's so important. So
it's scary, but it's worth it.
It is scary, but it's worth it. Just like you said. Yeah.
Scary, but it's worth it.
Yeah. So be you guys. I feel like that's a great place to wrap up, but be you. And if you are thinking about getting protection, or you want to learn how to do your energetic protection, I'm going to put Anya's class below, and we have it very reasonably priced for everybody. Okay.
Well, it's something that should be accessible to all. It's starts quite simplified and it goes to different layers of techniques, and so you can kind of choose what resonates with you in terms of protection. There's a lot of physical human methods of protection, crystals and sage and all them things, but then there's also a lot of different energetic techniques in terms of things you can do in the astral realm and working with your guides and things like that. But yeah, there will be a lot of exciting things coming. I'm sure Honey will keep you all updated on my little adventures and explorations, but it is really nice to get back in tune with you all. I do appreciate Honey bringing me back on into this little
I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm so glad everything's kind of settled down a little bit into motherhood, a whole new lifestyle.
It is a hard journey, but yeah, guys, look after yourselves, and again, like we said, just start being as truly you as you can be, and the more that you practice doing it, the easier it becomes, because people still judge me all the time, but I just don't care as much now. So it just a bit easier.
Yeah.
So just like love yourself a little bit more, and being you becomes a lot easier.
Beautiful. Love you guys. Bye.